Alright, let's get back into some what-if scenarios. Now, I'm not going to make this one super drawn out and long like a lot of the others, but merely quick to the point, and leaving it a little bit thought-provoking. So, what if Darth Plagueis had survived Sidious's betrayal? What if he didn't die? In James Luceno's novel, Darth Plagueis, Sidious kills his master during a pivotal moment at the end of the book. Sidious pivoted to take in the disarray. Antique furniture overturned, flamed artwork askew, as if a whirlwind had swept through. And face down on the floor lay Plagueis, and now dead. Or was he? Uncertainty rippled through Sidious. So what if, at this critical moment, Plagueis hadn't fallen fully into death's embrace? Imagine if Plagueis, known for defying mortality, and succeeded just enough using his extraordinary manipulation of midichlorians to hold onto life and regenerate at the brink of death. If Plagueis survived, the consequences are immeasurable. Palpatine, still Chancellor but not yet the Emperor in Episode 1, would find himself in an unprecedented situation. He'd planned this assassination meticulously, expecting Plagueis' death to solidify his position as the sole Dark Lord of the Sith. Confident that the will of the dark side had been done, he returned to the suite's windowed wall. But had the change been felt and recognized elsewhere? Were his sworn enemies aware that the Force had shifted irrevocably? Imagine Palpatine's horror realizing the Force had not shifted irrevocably at all, that Plagueis still lived, even if weakened. Now, a lot of us thought that this could have been Snoke, but that's not the scenario here. This would have shattered Palpatine's confidence and forced him into immediate action. Sidious would have to retreat, quickly recalculating his entire strategy. This is something that never really happened to Palpatine. He kind of was going after win after win after Order 66 for the most part. This betrayal, now known of course by Plagueis, would ignite an unprecedented Sith civil war, invisible to the Republic but devastatingly real to the dark side. Both Sith Lords would scramble to control their extensive secret networks. Damask Holdings, Plagueis' financial and political base, could instantly turn against Sidious. Consider Plagueis' vast control over galactic finance and influence among figures like Larsh Hill and Boss Cobra. He could financially cripple or expose Palpatine with strategic leaks or economic sabotage, basically canceling him. Now, we need to talk about the ultimate prize. Plagueis knew of Anakin's existence and recognized his unique creation through midichlorian manipulation, suspecting that the Force itself had reacted to their dark experiments. Could it be possible that the Force had struck back against them, creating a being of its own design, said the book. If Plagueis survived, his first strategic move would undoubtedly be to seize Anakin Skywalker before Palpatine could fully corrupt him. Plagueis could potentially offer Anakin what Sidious only falsely promised, the genuine ability to prevent death, perhaps even to save Padme. Anakin, ever desperate to avert his visions, might become Plagueis' apprentice instead, fundamentally altering his destiny. Now, at this point, depending when Plagueis really wants to step into Anakin's life, which leads to a whole nother fanfiction of what if Plagueis trained Anakin, which I actually don't think I've ever made. What is the one thing that Palpatine, the Jedi, and the entire Jedi Order could never give Anakin that he so desperately wanted? To free his mother. Now, Plagueis had his fingers in all corners of the galaxy. He was extremely powerful, extremely wealthy, and extremely influential. I bet that he could have easily done what needed to be done to free Anakin's mom. That means making a deal with the Hutts, making a deal with Watto, whatever it might be that he needed to do in order to get her off Tatooine without that bomb inside of her. Because if you didn't know, all slaves have trigger bombs inside of them in case they leave the planet, then they just get detonated by their master. Pretty dark and grim, but that's Hutt land for you. It's not bound by the laws of, human rights, I suppose. I'm sure that Plagueis would be able to free Anakin's mother, and this would win Anakin over for the rest of his life. Then we need to talk about the Clone Wars and the Jedi Order, and Sidious's orchestrated Clone Wars, where he was playing both sides, depended heavily on secrecy and manipulation. And with Plagueis alive, Sidious's elaborate plan to control both the Republic and the Separatists, Count Dooku included, would become compromised. Plagueis could leak details, potentially revealing Sidious's double life. The Jedi Council, finally tipped off clearly enough, could uncover Darth Sidious's identity far sooner than expected. See, when I would make kind of videos like this, most people would imagine, oh, well, Sidious and Plagueis would have to fight. But these two are so unbelievably, well, let's just say litigious, as powerful in the Force equally. So the first thing that they would do to cripple each other would be to tarnish their image, which is where a lot of their power was from, because they could act within the shadows and in the spotlight. But in order to make Palpatine completely disappear and return to the shadows, he would have to destroy his image. And I think that's exactly what Plagueis would do, and he would do it successfully. Now imagine Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan confronting not just one Sith, but two powerful Dark Lords waging an invisible war. The Jedi might initially attempt to exploit this Sith civil war, unknowingly playing into Plagueis' own strategy to weaken Sidious, while preserving his own Shadow Empire. However, this also leaves the Jedi dangerously exposed, caught between two destructive, desperate Sith Lords. Plagueis' survival would fracture Bane's rule of two. Sidious had already secretly violated it with apprentices like Maul, Dooku, and later Vader, but now this fracture would become public among the Sith elite. Darth Maul and Count Dooku would be forced to choose sides openly. Maul, long manipulated by Sidious, might attempt revenge against Palpatine or seek allegiance with Plagueis. Dooku, the idealist turned Sith Lord, who never truly was an evil Sith Lord except for, he had Sith eyes at like one moment in the Clone Wars. He would probably find his position to be untenable. He would be caught between competing Sith masters who could easily expose or eliminate him. So the resulting instability could plunge the galaxy into mass chaos unlike anything that the Clone Wars achieved. Neither the Republic nor the Separatists would hold the upper hand, leaving worlds caught between devastating conflicts secretly orchestrated by Plagueis and Sidious. Planets like Naboo, Mustafar, Kamino, Geonosis, they would all become battlegrounds not just for clones and droids, but for competing Sith interests. It would become essentially like Star Wars Monopoly, except the boardwalk was like Naboo, and all the different streets in the game were just different planets. Plagueis' survival would dramatically impact the prophecy concerning Anakin as the Chosen One. With two Sith Lords fighting openly, his role would shift from bringing balance through betrayal and redemption to being a potential linchpin in a larger fight. His decisions would reshape destiny entirely, possibly leading to scenarios where he masters the dark side more completely under Plagueis, especially after saving his mother, or even rejects it outright, aligning himself fully with the Jedi, triggering the prophecy differently, because if his mom is around, then he might be more inclined to stay in the light side because she would probably be like, Annie, no, don't do this. But then again, he'd probably be more vulnerable. So really, with Anakin, it's you never know what you get. So Plagueis' survival would really afford him quite an amount of time to complete his true work, perfecting immortality indeed. And with Sidious distracted, Plagueis might finally unlock the ability to sustain life indefinitely, mastering midichlorians fully. Now imagine a Sith Lord who genuinely cannot be killed, fundamentally altering the nature of force-wielding conflict and plunging the galaxy into perpetual darkness. He would kind of be like Thanos with the Reality Stone, and he'd just be able to change things by manipulating midichlorians on a whim. Now, despite Sidious's power, which we cannot take out of account here because he was extremely powerful, his success relied significantly on surprise and betrayal. So confronting a fully prepared, immortal Plagueis could prove very difficult, basically impossible. Sidious, who is now pushed to desperation, would become far more ruthless, perhaps even recklessly powerful. Let's say he's exposed and he just does not care anymore. He's taking no prisoners. Everyone already knows he's evil or thinks he's evil or hates him, so he can't rely on winning over the people. He's now just a wrecking ball, just destroying everything. But Plagueis is now very wary and infinitely wiser, could turn Sidious's aggression against him. What I mean by this is that Plagueis' strategy would essentially be to let Sidious's own violent ambition become his undoing, trapping him in webs of his own aggression and schemes. Your overconfidence is your weakness. Sidious's impatience and need for absolute control would inevitably force him into errors that Plagueis, the original master manipulator, would anticipate and exploit to catastrophic effect. This isn't just speculative, it's classic Sith psychology. The master always understands his apprentice's weaknesses better than anyone else, and Plagueis was the ultimate Sith master of manipulation. Sidious would become the victim of his own aggressive nature, manipulated by the very darkness that he had once been empowered by. And that's exactly how Plagueis, had he survived, would have turned Sidious's aggression against him, reshaping not only their dynamic, but potentially the entire fate of the galaxy itself. And in the end, he would bring Palpatine to either being exposed and completely humiliated and never ever turning his back to Sidious again, to be killed so easily. He would never let his guard down, and it would be difficult for Plagueis, because he could never have a moment to just let loose or to just think everything's all right. He had to always be on watch, because Sidious was always going to try and kill him. And that's the thing with Palpatine, he waits for the perfect moment of weakness. But if Plagueis was able to remain strong always, but merely pretend to be weak to lure him in, then I think Plagueis would always have Palpatine in the palm of his hand. I tried to go a little bit differently with this fanfiction, to a little more of a intellectual thought process of what the two would do and how they would try to oust each other. Instead of going into Palpatine would go into hiding and then he'd try to like fight him somewhere in the desert or something. I think they would try to really screw each other over politically and essentially cancel each other in the Senate, and then all the gloves are off. So, there's two different scenarios that we could have gone from there. So let me know what you think of this fanfiction. Let me know what you think would have happened if he actually did survive. Or if you want to go in the route of essence transfer, we can also do that too in another video. But the thing I want to do the most probably after this is, what if Plagueis trained Anakin? Because I don't think I've ever done that one before. Let me know how you think that would go. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. 60% of you guys are watching the videos recurring, which means that you're constantly coming back, yet you're not subscribed. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video on Star Wars Theory. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.